I would like to welcome everybody to the IAC BINA morning session. IAC Lead is the Young Professional Leadership Program of the IAC in LA. I would like to introduce Mokady, President and CEO of CyberArk.
My biggest fan here. Good morning, everybody. We were told to do TED-like talks, but in TED there's a huge screen. So I decided to improvise a little bit without slides and tell the CyberArk story. Tell me if you can all hear me, and we'll make it fun and quick. They say that Israelis can't create large companies. Usually it's a startup nation, and you create startups, and then they go for sales. They also say that Israelis think that only the best product wins and don't invest in marketing. The story of CyberArk tells a different story, and we believe applies to huge opportunity and to many potential similar stories in Israel. The story of CyberArk is also very Israeli-American because we founded CyberArk as an information security company in Israel, and we now have over 800 employees around the world, of which 200 are in the US. The first landing point as we expanded was in Boston, where we created our US headquarters. And when you ask the person in the industry, they don't just say CyberArk, an Israeli company, but CyberArk, a global information security company. It's very much positioned that way. But the journey was very much Israel and America. So I'd like to share a bit of the story. In a recent panel in Israel, when I told our story, somebody said, "So you're basically a 15-year overnight success." And I said, "Yeah, that's what we are, because we embarked on a different trajectory. We embarked on building a large company and going for it. And of course, when you take a long haul, there are a lot of challenges and a lot of interesting stories around these years. And I'll just touch a few. And for the audience here, I think you can guess what was the Israeli trait and what was the American trait, and why those combinations really helped us happen. So the story of CyberArk starts with myself and best friend from high school in Jerusalem. We both served in different military units. I served in the intelligence. He served in Mamram, which is the central computer center of Israel. And we both reconnected after a few jobs after the army. And we didn't commercialize a military technology, but we saw something. We saw that the military trusts the people that operate from the inside, from an operations security perspective. And then we saw the same things in large banks, in large organizations, that the focus is just keeping the bad guys out. But once you're in, from access to computer systems, you can do everything. And of course, we saw that at a minimum, people just by being given access are curious, and they snoop. Curiosity killed the cat. And of course, there's also malicious opportunities for people on the inside. And what we decided to do is bring the physical concept of vaults from the physical world to the digital world. In the physical world, you don't just put in doors and let everybody roam around. If you have something of value, you lock it up in a safe or in a vault. When we founded CyberArk, the digital world was just focused on firewalls, disconnecting networks, keeping the bad guys out, and then if you're on the network, you can do anything. Then that quality was, a lot of people were naysayers. Who's going to want a vault? Who's going to want a digital vault? We trust our people. It's all fine. But we were stubborn and got a great head start with adoption of Israeli companies, which I often talk about in conferences, that the first Israeli customers really can help a startup. We had adoption from early banks and even government organizations when we kicked it off. Then we raised money, and we, as I mentioned, moved the US headquarters to Boston. The US market responded a bit differently. They said, you want us to store our sensitive files in your vaults? We're worried about something else. We're worried about the keys in which strong IT employees are using in order to access the system. Basically, it's called privileged accounts, the keys to the IT kingdom. And that's where stubborn had to meet listening. Although we would stay true to our vault concept, the customers actually wanted to store something else in the vault. versus what we embarked on. Not their sensitive files, but the keys that operate their IT. And as we embarked on the journey, we saw that there are thousands of these keys in every piece of the IT infrastructure. Every server has to be administered. Every application has to be administered. Every firewall, every network device. In the hands of trusted people, that's fine. But in the hands of somebody rogue, they can do everything. The CEO can be sitting on the 50th floor, but the IT person down below can read all of his or her emails and can do everything. And that's how we, I wouldn't say pivoted, but we listened to our customer and adjusted our technology to vault credentials that power the IT infrastructure. It then moved to the need to support huge implementations, huge banks, and make it scalable and cross environment and pan the globe, and started to add on customers. Then came the first bump. The first bump was a serious bump to everybody. Post 9/11, so I'm not talking about 9/11 itself, of course, and the tragedies around that, but post 9/11, if you were still alive as a startup, funding was not to be found. And investors literally hid under the table. We were already in Boston, we already had customers, the R&D center was in Israel, but investors were not to be found. And that's when we remembered to stay true to that Israelis, they keep on carrying business even when things go wrong. Let's test out the Israeli investors and see if they're back in business. And that's what we discovered. While the US VCs took a break of 12, 18 months from any investing, they wanted to see how the world will shake up. The Israeli VCs were open for business. They also wanted to cut a good deal because they knew that there weren't too many other alternatives. But for us, it was fabulous. We were able to raise money, keep going, and grow the company. And we started to scale. And another element of growing up in Israel got into play. When you grow up in Israel, you can't really do a lot of commerce with your neighbors. You're very export-oriented. So although we sold a lot to the local market, you're very export-oriented. When you grow up here, you have a huge market in the US, and many companies just focus on getting their own local market. But since we started from Israel, we knew that actually we want to go for the globe. So even as a startup, we had people and began to leverage channels to sell in Europe, and even some early starts in Asia, back in those days. And we grew the company, and things were going great until the second bump came along. 2008, financial crisis. A lot of banks were, and large organizations were holding off their investments. We looked around, and there were, for those of you who've been out there and running companies or in startups, there were PowerPoints running around and floating around the internet, advice from VCs. It's called slash 20% of your workforce, slash your employees. This is going to be the dark ages again. The world is going dark now. And as operators of a small startup, it was hard to ignore that noise, and everybody was talking about laying off employees. But we knew that we were always lean and mean. We knew that we never overhired, and that actually we looked around. All of our employees we wanted them, and we wanted them for the long run, and business was going fine, because information security is not a nice-to-have project, and the projects will carry on. So against the advice of board members, against the advice of the fellow companies and fellow VCs, we did not slash, or we did not reduce even one single person from the workforce. Instead, we cut our own salaries. My daughter is sitting in the crowd, didn't know this, but yeah, we cut our own salaries to keep the ship going. And the end result was, coming out of the financial crisis, is a very strong company. The workforce felt the loyalty because they saw what's going around them. The customers saw that we continued to invest in the right things, and we were on a path, on the right path. We, over the years, because we're mission critical and integrate into the critical systems that our customers have, we were always asked, Udi and others asked on the team, how do we know you're going to be around? We don't want you to go off just like most of the startups. It's a very tough question to answer when you have venture capital investors. And so we looked them in the eye, and we said, look, we have venture capital investors. Their interest is to get returns. If we'll find a way to give them those returns and still build a large company, that's plan A for us, and that's what we want to do. And the turning point came by focusing on building a real company, we became a profitable entity. We did not need more funding. And we were able to bring investors to buy out, not invest in the company, but to buy out other investors who were not going for it for the long run. In that case, it was Goldman Sachs, who came in 2011 and wanted to join and invest in the company, and bought out investors who were not in it for the long run. The investors who stayed actually got an appetite by Goldman joining, and a new constitution was written. If you're staying in the company, we're going for it. We're going to build a large company. It was a great message to the employees and a great message to the market, because they see companies and startups come and go all the time. Then, after many years of hard work, actually 2 years ago, yesterday, was our second anniversary. 2 years ago, September 24, 2014, CyberArk went public on NASDAQ as an Israeli corporation listed in NASDAQ, which was, for us, I never agreed to put it up as from startup. I never agreed to talk about it as from startup to exit, because going public is not an exit. Going public is building a platform for building a large company. And so we were received very well. Investors who wanted to liquidate were off, and now, 2 years later, we're really held by public hands, retain really the vast majority of the core team, but doubled the team in the last 2 years to over 800 employees. And the story we tell them every day is, we're just getting started. We have 2,700 customers. There are tens of thousands of enterprises around the world who are still living in this notion of perimeter security will cut it. We have to secure them from the inside. The last couple of years, Sony breach, the Anthem breach, the biggest breach that happened here in DC, the Office of Personnel Management, which is the HR department of the federal government. 20 million plus records were stolen, including 5.6 million fingerprint records of federal employees. There's nobody you can really call and say, hey, I want to switch my fingerprint. They didn't invent that yet. And so the awareness is really vast and growing to the sophistication of hacking and the fact that the layering should be on the inside. So we're very driven to continue to grow and to help build this new layer of on the inside of companies, and to also set an example for Israeli companies on the force that comes from partnering with executives here. We talked about the strength in marketing, the force of really staying the course and thinking global in the ability to build a large company. Thank you.
Any questions?
Feel free to ask, because I'm used to investors asking all sorts of stuff. So.
I'll ask a question.
All right.
Tell us about a challenge you had when you started the business and how you overcome it.
So I talked about, I think, 2 bumps in the road. I think in the early days, it was getting those first few customers to let us go on site and come in with something that is a totally new concept and also not very baked and run on the inside. I think that's where the Israeli, I would say, friendship or using connections, or we asked for a break, because all you need is a break. And once they saw it was working well. So I think the first challenge was that. Beyond that, every year presented a lot of challenges, and that's what makes it exciting.
Good. Uri, it's not just the Israeli connections, but it's the infrastructure that you got from the army. And this is something essential to say, that we are genius, we are a startup nation, but each one of those brilliant boys came from the army with this something more that they got there to be able to develop something else, right?
Yeah.
The army is definitely a good foundation.
Say
Yeah,
that.
definitely.
Yeah.
One more question. What made you believe in cyber in such an early stage?
So first of all, we called it CyberArk before people called information security cybersecurity.
Right.
So a lot of people use cyber now for the name. We saw, I think we saw one great example of a large company emerge, which was Checkpoint, which emerged a couple of years before we founded the company and was already a public company that was traded. I think it excited us to see that the whole transformation of internet was happening and connectivity, and was very clear that that hacking is going to move from a hobby to something more professional. We did not predict that it would be what it would be today. We never expected to see a Sony type breach or an OPM type breach, but we thought that at least financial services, at least very sensitive entities will need this layering on the inside. Now it's clear that all types of companies get hacked for different reasons and different data. The data is worth money.
Great. Go ahead.
Just want to make a comment here, because I'm teaching in the United States, and I can see kids coming from high school to university completely confused. What happens in Israel is that the army in Israel gives people leadership skills, because when you take kids that are 18 years old, 19 years old, and give them responsibilities, regardless of what, they give them the responsibility to make decisions on the spot. This kind of growth definitely cannot be accomplished in many ways. And I think that if I'm looking for my older age, I'm looking and I'm seeing what's going on, and I'm looking and comparing very smart American kids that come to NYU and with very high SAT scores and so on. They compare them to Israeli kids that come to university after the army, for example, and have surety in the leadership. This is something which is not only the tools, but the growth, the personal growth that the army gives you is invaluable.
Definitely. Any other questions? Okay, I would like to introduce Dr. Anat Berko, member of the Knesset, Likud.
Okay. Good morning. I'm with the bad guys, okay? I'm going to speak about terrorism and especially about women in terror. If we'll have a little time, we'll speak also about children, but please, let's start with the footage, the video footage. I spent 5 years in this wing researching those women. לא שומעים? Look at them. Those women were suicide bombers that failed, escort suicide bombers, pretend to be a family member of terrorists, and conduct terror by themselves. The other footage that I would like to show right now, please, about the little girls from Hamas. Kindergarten. The blood and the color, the red color is the blood of the Jews, and each one of them, when they are dancing with the weapon, with their hands with blood, Jewish blood. I think that we got it. Thank you.
Unbelievable.
Okay. The book was just published last week in an update edition. It was published in Israel 6 years ago and 4 years ago in America, but nothing changed. So they just asked me to update the last terror attacks in Europe, and that's it. we see when we are speaking about women in terrorism, we see that there is something happening here in the last few years. In the Muslim world, the woman is very restricted. She is in the private sphere, but right now, with the technology, with the satellites, cell phones, and internet, they cannot isolate her anymore. And the patriarchal structure of the family actually is falling apart. This is something that happens many years ago. And do you remember the ICQ? It's like the messenger system that a woman pretend to be, an Arab woman, pretend to be a Morocco Jew. She seduced a young boy in Israel and asked him, she said, look at that. Do you have a girlfriend? Are you going to tell your friends? Would you like to have sex with me? And things like that. And he came to meet her in Jerusalem, and he didn't tell his mom. He hid it. And he thought that he's going to have a girlfriend, and 15-year-old boy, he thought about sex and nothing else. And the first that we must admit, and when he came to meet her, she came with her another 2 terrorists, and they shoot him to death. And after that, he actually felt that something wrong, and he started shouting, Ima, Ima, in Hebrew, help me, Mommy, help me. And then they pushed him and shot him to death, and get rid from the body. And a week after that, the IDF stopped and arrested this woman. And she's not in jail anymore. Though you know who I'm speaking about, Amna. She's not in jail because after Gilad Shalit was released, she was released also with other terrorists. But she controlled everything related to those women in jail, inside jail, because it's so different from criminals. Women in jail here, in such a society, they are not the heroes. They are not the heroine like the men. Men, you can say that in his biography today, and Yoav Gallant said it in a crystal clear way, today is a terrorist, tomorrow you'll find him in a great, and it's a good chapter for his CV, as the leader of in the PA, the Palestinian Authority. For the women, it's a problem, because in this society, nobody will forgive her from getting out of the house without getting any permission, and she did something wrong. What was wrong with this woman? That she's supposed to go and to carry out a terror attack. This is something for males, not for females. But it's also, is it a sign for feminism, freedom of women? Not in this society. Because the first female suicide bomber in Iraq, Muriel, was a woman with blonde hair, green eyes, that converted to Islam. And we see after that, we saw a lot of them, also in Afghanistan, everywhere actually. Even in Israel, in Syria, in many women we saw that involved in terrorism, and those women are the bombshell? No. Actually, those women, it's another way to abuse women in this patriarchal culture. Because many times, instead of getting rid of a woman in a way that moral suspicious, honor killing, or something like that, this is the best way for them to say, as one of the leaders, the intellectuals that I interviewed, Palestinian intellectuals, said it's better to be shahida than to be sharmuta. To be shahida, it's a female martyr in Arabic. To be sharmuta, it's a whore. And this is the play with the words, that because many times to be or to have rumors about moral conduct and chastity, you don't need so much. just rumors. And in this society, rumors can kill. And you hear many, many women that were killed in honor killing, and there is nothing related to honor in our eyes, but this is how it works. This woman, the last famous suicide bomber from Gaza, Munira, she said, you know, she was raped twice. She was not a virgin anymore. And she was had burns on her body, nothing related to the IDF, but accident in her house with a gas, and she tried to cook something, and the family, and this was the first time that I saw that the family was involved in sending her because they wanted to get rid of her. And even her lawyer said, in fact, it could be defined that the defendant is the victim of her family and the dispatchers. So it was crystal clear here that they wanted to get rid of her. And they put the explosive belt inside the house to send her and to get rid of her. In jail, actually, she couldn't even put, clothes, and she couldn't walk. It was very difficult for her. And she started crying after every single thing that you told her. And she was very, very sensitive. But she knew that somebody actually used her, and it's part of that was the family. 20 years ago, I interviewed Sheikh Ahmed Yassin with Reuven, my husband here. Both of us were in the army at that time, and not with uniform, from sure, but I'm from Iraqi origin. I have the Iraqi Jewish Arabic, and Reuven is Orientalist. He's Ashkenazi, but his Arabic is very fluent. So we had a meeting with Sheikh Yassin. He was in jail at that time, and we talked at home. At home, actually, we talk about the Hamas and the Islamic Jihad. We argue about them, and we talked about that. And Reuven told me, I think that it could be a historical thing to speak with this guy because we don't know how long he will stay in prison. Just the bottom line to tell you that Sheikh Yassin at that time, he was against sending women to take part in terrorism, especially suicide terrorism. And you know why? Because when a woman blows herself up, her body parts cut to shreds, right? And you can see the intimate body parts. It's disgusting. But for them, chasm al-mara awra, which means the body of the woman is very intimate part. You cannot see it, you cannot touch it, and if it mixed with the victim, it's for them it's like a sexually relationship even after her death. So the control of the body, it's something that they speak about that even after her death. Another thing that the woman has actually a special ability to give birth, especially boys. So why to kill her? She's a machine of producing children. So why to kill her? Why to send her to blow herself up? The other thing that I asked Sheikh Yassin, the founder of the Hamas organization, that actually we conducted target killing and we killed him in 2004, before the American killed bin Laden. And I asked him, Sheikh Yassin, tell me, would you allow your son to blow himself up in a bath as a boy? And he said, as a boy? Just he will ask, in Islam, under the age of 15, you cannot send your own child, or you cannot send any child to deal with military stuff. But if he looks like a man, he can do that earlier. But Sheikh Yassin, would you allow your son? He didn't answer that. And this is something that we must admit. Not bin Laden, not Sheikh Yassin, not Hania, not Abu Mazen. send their own children. It's easier to send children of others, but not their own children. And people know that. Automatically, when women involved in terrorism, they think, the community, the society think there's something wrong with this woman. Something wrong, what she did. Did she cheat her husband? Something wrong. And we need to find the right question. But on the other hand, it's the path to clear her name and the name of the family. So it's better to do that if she has a moral problem or rumors about moral problem, and not to find her the way to humiliate the family and to cause a damage to the prestige of the family name. She's a damaged good. Nobody will think that she's a good woman. And as one of the deputy prime minister of Hamas that I interviewed 9 years ago, he said, for me, a man who sent women to conduct terror attack is jahil. Jahil is the period before Islam erupted. So he's ignorant. He cannot do that. He said about himself, wouldn't allow my son or my brother to marry with a woman like that. So this is the bottom line of this. And he said women can deal with education, with medicine, healthcare, but not with military stuff. Again, for him, for Abu Ter, he wouldn't allow his daughter even to go, not to the gym, not to demonstrate, nothing. He will isolate her and keep the name of, the prestige name of the family. So on the one hand, we know that the girls, that the women are down the ladder here in the Arab society, in the Muslim society, and everywhere, also children. But on the other hand, the honor of the family, of the patriarchal family, of the tribe even, is related to her conduct. Another member of Hamas said, you know, for me, a woman is a diamond. You don't throw your diamond in the middle of the street and expose it that everybody will see the diamond. It's something that you need to keep and to hide from everybody. And so we see it destroyed my dignity. I call this phenomenon as a strip for terror, which means when a woman go to carry out a terror attack, she would like to have the Western look, okay? She'll take off her hijab and jilbab, all the traditional attires, and at the same time, she'll have the Western look, sometimes heavy makeup. I saw women that went even with a belly shirt, took it to the extreme, not like the Western women, the conventional Western women who are sitting here. And when they go on their way to the target, actually they take off their clothes, in my point of view, totally. And for the radical Muslims, they said she's a naked woman. So even after her death, she wouldn't get the recognition that the boys, that the males will get after they carry out a terror attack. Look at that. A female suicide bomber in the age of 21. She graduated university. She was fluent in Arabic, in Hebrew, in English. And this is her image, self-portrait. Here, all her body inside the box. Look at that. There is no sexuality here. No flesh, no stability. Look at her hand, like abused child here. And a big, big head. And it looks like a 5-year-old child that painted this. But this is her image and the feeling of insecure. And I have a lot of, I asked them to paint or to write letters and things like that. And perhaps it will be the next book, but now I'm in the Knesset, I don't have time for that. Sorry about that. What about paradise? Is there any equality in paradise for them? No, there is not. That even in paradise, she would say, I would be a virgin again. Nobody will say that 72 male virgins are waiting for her. So for her, actually, somebody told me that Virginians are waiting for them there. But, or a female in the age, a woman in the age of 72, that she is a virgin. But for them, it's, if she did a mistake, and mistake related to morality, why she needs to pay? And they ask this question. But she needs to pay the price. And in a society that virginity is much more than life, so to be a virgin again, to be able to choose her husband, this is something big. We saw a lot of imposed marriage and incest, that women came to the checkpoints and tried to stab a soldier. And sometimes there was a woman that actually she was involved in terror attacks a few times that I saw in jail, that she came to try to stab a soldier. She was 1 year in jail. She got medical care. She got dental care. She was very happy. And after that, when she came back home, a few weeks after that, again, she came to the checkpoint, took her knife, even didn't try to stab the soldier, just did like that and asked him, do you know me? Just take me to jail. I want to run away from my house. And this is how it works. And many times we need to publish the real story behind those women. The other thing that I want to tell you about paradise, that for them it's eternal virginity. She'll be one of the virgins, or actually she'll conduct all this system because you have a lot of shaheeds, you need to take care of them. She'll meet her husband there in paradise. If he was abusive husband or beheaded her head or did something wrong, he would go to hell and she'll go to paradise. Yeah. There is no running noises, no bathroom, no headache, nothing. They're ready for a sexual relationship all the time. And it was very strange to think that the males said that they will have children because they are young and they want to expand their family. And the females said, especially the mothers told me, we wouldn't have children. We will rest. We don't have to cook. We don't need to pray. We don't need to do anything. We just need to have rest. And this is something very, very different. Another thing that I want to emphasize, that the people who go to carry out a terror attack and thinking about sacrifice themselves, istishhad, self-sacrifice, they said that they are going to give 70 people from their own family a place in paradise, direct place in paradise without any tortures in the grave. It's something very similar to Judaism, that before the neshama getting to go up to heaven, it's like they suffer from torture in the grave. So when I interviewed a female suicide bomber that failed, that her brother was a suicide bomber, and I asked her, why you need to do so? You have 70 places in paradise right now because of your brother. And she said, but we are a very big family. We need to take care of all of them. And for us, it looks funny. But for them, this is how it works. It's very, very tangible, and this is how they think. A lot of women sexually exploit before sending them. Anyway, you'll be a virgin again in paradise, so why no? And nobody speak about that. And actually, there is sexually exploitation that we see women that sometimes run away from the house. If they don't sleep in the house even one day, they cannot come back. So they don't have any choice, and they use them. I know that I don't have enough time. Okay. In paradise, everything that is forbidden in paradise, in this world, is allowed in paradise. So they hate the West, but at the same time, they would like to live like in the West. Alcohol, sex, for them to meet with Allah, with the Prophet, with the other Shaheeds, and women will be virgins forever, forever. Okay, the use of children, and you see it right now, a lot of children, especially ISIS use children. It's not just as human shields, because children have no moral judgment. It didn't develop enough. And for them, they are the perfect soldiers that we in the West treat them in a way that we need to be moral, not to hurt children. And for them, they are the small change. And it's easier to deal with them. Let me tell you something. I just passed legislation in the Knesset that between the age of 12 and 14 will be allowed to put children who dealt with terrorism in a shelter before sending them to jail. Why? Because we saw that in this age a lot of use of children. They have the social media and Facebook. They put their name on the wall and finish. They are running and do whatever they do and feel that this is the first time that they feel that they are men. I wouldn't speak about that. They promised them 2 years in jail, 1 year in jail, and after that, it doesn't work like that. A boy, a stutter boy, that his sister was a female suicide bomber, a divorcee. So we need to look at the personal problem. We need to give the biography and to publish it and to delegitimize their act. And he said, I felt power. I could sell my family. And he said, you know what? This is the first time that I felt that I'm a man, that I'll press the bottom and itla ala jannah, which means and I'll go directly to paradise. What about women? Haram, women, it's forbidden to send women, and everybody was against that. But we saw that even Sheikh Yassin in 2004, there was the first female suicide bomber from Hamas, a mother of 2 babies. And there was a rumor that she had a love affair with another guy from Hamas, and they want to get rid of her. And she came to the checkpoint, and she said that she has a metal in her leg, and they start crying. And if she was he, nobody would let her go from this checkpoint. But the Israeli soldier felt pity, and the only one who, after she blew herself up, who was survived was a female soldier that went to bring her gloves to check this woman. And what happened after that? After 40 days, what her husband did? Get married. As they told me, a man cannot stay alone even one night without a woman. So when we see right now that the big brother cannot watch anymore those women, and the use and abuse of women and this gender oppression get double meaning, because it's not just political gender oppression or gender oppression in the family. It's also a gender oppression that even if she decided and she just put in a corner, it's not a matter of decision, she wouldn't get the same recognition like men. But it's very, very useful to use women. And we see the Shahada mania, I call this, and I suggested to put it on the DSM of the psychiatrist as a pathology, because it's not pathology in the level of the individual, but it's pathology of the level of the collective. And there is Shahada, they sacrifice their life in terrorism, actually, what we see right now all over the world, the Sunni world especially. And mania, it's also sexual hunger, and how they change their moods everywhere, psychomotorical obsession, and also this obsession and way of thinking about paradise and picturing themselves on the wall on Facebook, on what everybody will think about me. This is something that the reality for them. So for them, the goal is to become an altruist in this world and hedonistic in the next one. Why? Because there they will get everything. So is she the smarter bomb or the stupid bomb that everybody abuse and use and just get rid of it? But it's very useful to use women and children because they give the cover of a family, nobody suspect. We can go, both of us, Reuven and me, to a mall. Each one of us carry a gun. Actually, he brought me one many years ago for our anniversary day. I thought that I'm going to get a wonderful ring or something, but it was a pistol. And nobody asked me about that. They will ask him, do you carry a gun? And I have in my purse like a James Bond gun, a very small one. Even I take it to the Knesset and every day I put it there on the safe. And nobody asked about that. Why? Because nobody look at a woman, even in our society, even in the Israeli society, as someone that could harm somebody. She can be my sister, she can be my wife, she can be my mother, she could be, bless you, but not a suicide bomber and not a terrorist. So is she the smarter bomb or the stupid bomb that everybody can use? And this is me, look, in Al-Aqsa Mosque with the Mufti of Al-Aqsa. And that's it. Thanks for listening.
Questions?
I have lots of questions about the issue that I'm thinking about in the last years is what is the vision? We're talking about religion, right? So religion has a spiritual vision for the world to come. Islam took many things from Judaism in the beginning. So we have also a vision in our manuscripts of the world to come. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a spiritual, where all the souls are under the wings of God and learning Torah and all these. What kind of a spiritual, religious vision to have sex and alcohol in the world to come? I don't understand the developing of such an idea in religious terms.
I think that this is the way how they use religion, and this is the way you speak about Jannah, paradise. And they speak also about Walad Mukhaladun, right? Reuven, you can cite from the Quran. You can better do that in Arabic. And Walad Mukhaladun. And Walad Mukhaladun, it's also about males, young males. So if you have preference to have women in paradise, young males in paradise, all the options will be covered. So it's like, they wouldn't say you'll get homosexual relationship in paradise if you prefer to have, but they will give you the sense that there is an option like that. And the description about paradise, especially about the women, because they live in a society that they so oppressed in sexual meaning, everything is aib. Don't speak about sex. Don't contact with women. Don't look at her. Don't speak with her. As one of them told me, a man, when I come to work in a place when Jewish a woman can open the door for me, she will say, good morning, how are you? It's fine. Like, in our society, if she would say something like that, somebody would think, perhaps she fall in love with him, Perhaps she went to have coffee with him, perhaps. So because of that, what is interesting, the dispatchers of female suicide bombers acted like pimps. Why? Because the way that they sent other women, everybody thought that they had a relationship with them, that they something wrong also with them, and they used those women. So I met with, I interviewed another dispatcher of suicide terrorists, and he told me that he has in jail all the pictures of the shaheeds, the male martyrs that he sent, but he didn't put even one picture of shahida, of a female terrorist, because he said, if I have regret about something, it's just because I sent a woman and everybody talked about me, sending a woman. It put him in a very low level, like a pimp. I call it the same
But
field.
what is the history of the development of this idea? When it came from? When?
It's, to give the rationalization and the moral justification to use women or to use people and send them, you have this, and you can take the religion and twist it in a way that everybody will think that, okay, you do the right thing. For my PhD dissertation, I actually dealt with the moral judgment of terrorists, dispatchers of suicide bombers, and serial killers, all from Arabs. And you saw the distinction between them. For the terrorists, they didn't feel that they did something wrong, although they were serial killer by proxy, the dispatchers of suicide bombers. The others, they knew that they are criminals. They can say, oh, I had a very bad condition in my house, I was abused child, and things like that. For the terrorists, it doesn't work like that. So I would just sum up with that, because I don't want to take the time of my friends here, that there is a splitting in psychological meaning with the people who are sending other people to do so. Because in one hand, you can find people who have normative life, conventional life, but on the other hand, when it comes to killing the kuffar, the Jews, the Christians, or others, it's something that do not, there is a splitting, totally splitting, and to shatter this divide can change something, but it's not a long-term change. And it's very similar to the Ku Klux Klan and also to the Nazis. On the one hand, they can have conventional life in their house and society, and could be very nice to children, but when it comes to the Jewish babies, or Christian babies, or even kuffar, when we're speaking about takfir, that the people that are not so Muslims, in their eyes, they can do that. But bottom line, they don't have to be so religious to do so. And a lot of the people that I spoke with in interviews, 20 years inside the Israeli jail, first-hand research, face-to-face with them, were not so religious. So they use the terminology, they abuse the people with that terminology, but they are not so religious. They use radical Islam to justify their act and not to be just criminals. Thank you.
For a long time, I was very confused about how I should feel. Because there's the equality aspect, but then it's also these people are committing suicide bombing or suicide attacks. And so it's very confusing about how I look at the women and do I want them to be able to. Is there any hope, basically, for the children and the women not to be raised to think this way, to feel this way, to want? You've done so much research. Is there any hope at all that people are just going to?
It's a great question, but we are in the middle of tsunami of terror all around us. And is there any hope for women in this society that we see that raping, or selling women, using and abusing women and children? And I think that what we're seeing right now in Syria, in Iraq, in Libya, all over. And even, raping in Germany, it's a form of terrorism. Because if I interviewed young boys in the age of 16, 17, and they told me that in Bethlehem, they used to come to the church in Christmas and to sexually abuse Christian women, girls, because they're Christians, they can allow themselves. And after that, you saw a lot of Christians that fled from Bethlehem, and it's not a Christian city anymore. And I asked the boy who told me this, a terrorist and a son of jihadist, professional terrorist, that his father served many, many years in jail. And I asked him, if you'll do that to a Muslim woman, what will be? And he said, harb. Harb means a war. So they look at us, especially the Western society, that women are loose, they don't need to be protected. And even Sheikh Yassin told me I would like that my daughter will be a professor like you, but I told him, but I'm lecturing all over the world, so would you allow her to go and to give lectures in Europe and America? And he said, with a certain circumstances. And what are the circumstances? That she'll present without being naked. Do you think that a woman in the West, a professor, she's presenting when she's naked? And that a lot of people from the family will escort her and protect her, even when she's presenting. So this is the perception deep inside his mind. He thinks about the West, the problem with the West, that it's corrupted, immoral, and have loose women.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Frank Melloul, CEO, I-24 News.
Thank you. Thank you, Anat. It's very impressive.
Thank you, Frank, for everything that you're doing. Believe me, you are doing a lot for Israel. Thanks a lot.
I have to tell you that your research is giving me more energy to fight
Thank you.
with I-24 News. I have a very strong conviction, very deep conviction, that if today, thank you, people are thinking in the world that peace is not possible between Jews and Arabic, it's because of the media. 80% of the responsibility is because of the media. They are acting like a sounding board, and they are putting the fingers only on what is dividing and not gathering. I'm saying 80% because the 20% are coming from the politics. I'm a former French diplomat. I used to work with the French President Jacques Chirac, the friends of the Arabic countries. I know exactly why they don't like Israel. Because they don't know anything about this country. Not because they are anti-Zionist or anti-Semite. They don't know anything. When you are going in a meeting, and I had the opportunity to be with Tony Blair, Angela Merkel, even George W. Bush, and you are taking the agenda of the meeting, you will never see on the paper relationship with Israel. It's always written peace process. You never put the word Israel on a diplomatic paper, except if it's to attack Israel. So, when Patrick Drahi, a tycoon of cable networks, asked me to join him in Israel to build an international broadcast to change the perception of Israel, I said, okay, let's do it. But I wanted to answer to all these media which are increasing the prejudices against Israel. And I'm very proud today to show you this picture. Because in I-24 News, with 300 journalists working there, 24/7, 35 nationalities, Jewish, Muslim, Druze, Christians, even some agnostic. They are not only working together every single day, they are producing together the same content. That means they are building something together. And I'm showing that in a media, coexistence is possible. So, what is behind this idea? The DNA of I-24 News, it's to be an international news broadcast. And I like the challenge. And for me, to convince the convinced people, it's not a challenge. I want, with I-24 News, to reach the viewers of CNN, to reach the viewers of BBC, to reach the viewers of France 24, to reach the viewers of Al Jazeera. And it was very funny because the first interview I gave before the launch was for Al Jazeera. They came inside this newsroom and they told me, okay, you are strong. You will start. You can see in this newsroom, you have in the back the French-speaking studio, in the middle the English-speaking studio, and you will have in the other side the Arabic studio. You have 3 studios inside the same newsroom. So what is very exciting when you are a journalist of Al Jazeera is to see that it's unique in the world. When you go to visit Al Jazeera, and I had the opportunity to do that, you have one campus for the Arabic channel and another campus for the English-speaking channel. When you go to France 24, you have the English...
And it has 2 versions.
And you have 2 versions.
No, not the same.
No.
We sleep people in English.
Yes, one is Canada Dry and the other one is real alcohol. But when you go, for example, to France 24, you have the French and English speaking together, and they are putting the Arabic in a corner. When you go to BBC, you have a huge building, and every floor is a language. The unique place in the world where you have French, English, and Arabic broadcasting together. I'm sorry, it's in the country of the apartheid. It's in Israel, in Jaffa port.
Ah, yeah.
So the journalist asked me, it was 2 days before the launch, we are the 2 voices of the Middle East. I said, thank you. I even didn't start and you recognized me as a voice. What is the difference between Al Jazeera and I-24 News? It was nice. I said, I will answer you. The difference between you and me, you are broadcasting from Doha. I'm broadcasting from Tel Aviv. I'm the only one to broadcast from a democracy in the region.
Yeah.
This is the battle of the values. If I'm fighting against CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, it's because I'm defending the values of a democracy in the Middle East. And today, when we are watching what's going on in the other networks, we can be very worried about the battle of the content in the Middle East. I saw when I was in France 24, and sorry, Dror, to speak about the journalists, the way the journalists are working. Something is happening in the Middle East, they are taking the remote, they are opening the cable network, Al Jazeera. They take the pen, copy-paste. Generation of copy-pasting. So now they have an alternative and they can watch I-24 News and to see that there is a huge difference between the way we are putting things on the table. I don't believe in objectivity. It's bullshit. I believe in truth. What's the truth? The truth is to put facts on the table. And what is the reality today in the world? When a terrorist, a Palestinian, is stabbing an Israeli citizen or even a tourist in east of Jerusalem, what is doing the IDF? neutralizing the terrorists. This is the story on I-24 News. What is this? The same story in the media in Europe today? The IDF killed a Palestinian.
Yeah, here.
So this is our fight. The fight of the truth, the fight of the facts, the fight of the reality. For this reason, we need to be credible. And the credibility of the content has to be very strong. This is the reason we are hiring only journalists, recognized journalists. And I had a discussion last night with my friend, also with Dror, and a lot of people are asking me, tell me, which channel is the most pro-Israeli? I have to tell you the Arabic network. And they are not Jewish. As I told you, they are Druze, Muslim, Christians. Why they are the most pro-Israeli? Because when you are traveling abroad and you are asking, do you know what is an Arab Israeli? Even in the streets of New York, people don't know what is it. For the people in Europe, it's a traitor. Even a stupid guy. When you are watching a report on all the international news channels, they are asking a Muslim in their own country, or they are interviewing a Palestinian in the territories. They are never giving a microphone to an Arab Israeli. And I give them an opportunity to explain to the world what is to be an Arab Israeli. 85% of my journalists studied in the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. They are all educated and they are saying, we are part of the Israeli society. And believe me, they are very courageous because most of them are living in the north or in Jerusalem. And after the broadcast, they are coming back at home to fight with their own family to explain why they are broadcasting on I-24 News and why they want to explain to the world that to support a Palestinian state is not to go to terrorism. So, the CEO that you have in front of you today is not the same than the first day of I-24 News. Because we had to broadcast during a war. It was 1 year after the launch of I-24 News. Tzuketan started 1 year after the launch of I-24 News. And I remember that this day, the day before the war, a brilliant journalist of the Financial Times came from London to interview me for the first birthday of I-24 News. And he told me, you know, they don't like Jewish, they don't like Israel, and they don't like French. So with me, he has a package gift. So he started to interview me. He said, oh, it's amazing what you are doing. Oh, okay. And you are very lucky guy. I said, why? You should call your wife. Why are you telling me that? Because for your first birthday, you will have a war. I fired him from my office. I told him I don't want to see you anymore in my office. You can go back to UK, watch your fucking BBC. And I can tell you that will happen the next following days. It's not something that I'm happy. And for me, Tzuketan was a huge challenge. 3 challenges. Because after 1 year, I have young journalists. They are all very young. With me, the average is 30 years old. So I said they will be able to cover a war just after 1 year. And when they arrived at the Gaza border with the mic of I-24 News, the triangle with the logo I-24 News, next to BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, sorry for that. They started to realize not that they are journalists, but they have a mission. The mission to decrypt what's going on. And the first evening of the war, I was in my office, and in my office I have the screens with all my competitors. And I saw on Al Jazeera the Arabic Canal, the rocket starting from Gaza, and 2 seconds after I saw on I-24 News Arabic Canal, the rocket arriving in Israel. This is the difference of the perspective. This is the different story. The second challenge was to be watched by non-Jewish people. You know, in terms of marketing, when you are doing business, it's better to say I'm the channel for the people who are hating Israel than for the people who are supporting Israel. But during this war, I received a call from the CEO of ABC News. He said, okay, Mr. Melloul, I want to speak with you. I'm the international CEO of ABC News. I want to do a partnership with you. I said, but why? We are watching you. You are the CNN of this war. I said, but I'm not broadcasting in the US yet. We took the streaming live. We put in the newsroom of ABC. We are watching you. You are doing a great job. I said, can you explain to me why you think we are doing a great job? And they said, you are the only one to deliver the global picture. What is the global picture? I said to my journalist, okay, you want to explain how the people is dying in Gaza because the rockets are starting from a home, because the Hamas is using them as
human shields.
Human shields? Show them dying. If you are ignoring the fact that they are dying, you cannot explain when they are dying. So we were unattackable because we say, okay, today 4 Palestinians died, but we explain how they died. And after we explained that it was very strange that according to the ministry or the Palestinian ministries, they are all 4 years old. All the people dying, they are all 4 years old.
Yeah.
So, in the other hand, when you are in your studio in Tel Aviv, and you have the sirens, and the journalist broadcasting live is saying, I'm sorry, I need to leave my studio because there is missiles on Tel Aviv. You can hear the sirens. I will come back after the attack. People started to understand live that Israel is under attack. And we had in the very Zionist newspaper, the French newspaper, Le Monde, a headline, I-24 News, the Israeli channel under the missiles. So the third challenge was the challenge of the former diplomat, the challenge of the coexistence. When you have Arabic people inside your channel, and you know that, I said, okay, if this challenge will not work, it can kill everything. In the middle of the war, a young journalist came to my office and started to cry. He said, Frank, I'm fed up. I cannot handle it anymore. I said, okay, what's going on? Yesterday I was at the Gaza border. I saw the Israeli army, Air Force. And when I came back to Haifa, I heard that my cousin was killed during the bombing. So I started to tell him, I'm sorry for you. He cut me. You don't understand anything. And start to shout. You don't understand anything. Okay. The journalist is 24 years old. What? I don't understand. He told me, I never thought that I will cover a war with Jewish people. I never thought that I will wake up in the morning and to be happy to go to cover a war with Jewish people. I never thought that I will become a friend with this Jewish journalist during a war. Because you know, I don't have a big budget like CNN, so I'm taking a car, I'm putting one cameraman for the 3 channels, and the 3 journalists, they are together all the day. They are risking their life together. And he told me, Frank, it's amazing. I'm close to the Jewish because of the war. And more than that, my best friend is an Israeli soldier. He entered in Gaza 3 weeks ago. I don't have any news. I cannot sleep because of him. Frank, I am in the middle I don't know how to handle it. He told me that. I organized a meeting with all the Arabic desk. And I told them, I know exactly what's happening with you. They said, no, you are nice. You are nice, but you are not Arabic. I said, I'm sorry. I'm Jewish. I'm born in Switzerland. I grew up in Switzerland. I work in France for the French government. I know exactly what is it to be a minority in a majority. I know exactly when I was playing football and the coach said no, because he didn't came during the Chagim of Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, he cannot play today, he will be replacement. I know what it was when I was giving advice to President Jacques Chirac and the minister said, don't listen too much, Frank Melloul is under Jewish influence. I know exactly, and I told them, continue to be in the middle, and your vision, your heart, your soul will survive. And I will finish with a story of a journalist, a Syrian journalist, when I was spokesperson of the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I met a Syrian journalist. He knew that I was Jewish, and he told me, maybe Frank, one day, it was 10 years ago, maybe Frank, one day, we will eat together hummus in Jaffa. So I told him, why in Jaffa? He said, because you know there is a train between Damas and Jaffa, and every Friday we went with our family, and we went to the Shuk HaPushpushim in Jaffa, and also we were eating the best hummus in the region. And we are missing that. We want to go back to Jaffa to eat with Jewish people the hummus, the best one of the region. 10 years after, I am in Jaffa. And in I-24 News, I can tell you that the Jewish and the Muslims, they are sharing already the same hummus. So it's something little, but it exists. That means it's possible, and I hope it's the beginning of something bigger. Thank you.
Question? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, I cannot hear you.
Cannot hear you.
So first, I want to tell you that in January we will start to broadcast in the US. And we are arriving, we will broadcast from New York, prime time every single night. But CNN International is attracting his audience by what's going on in the world. We are doing exactly the same. But the difference between CNN and us, CNN is doing a specific program for Europe, specific program for Asia, specific program for Middle East, specific program for Africa. Because we are in a battle of values, you can see exactly the same feed everywhere in the world. And we can see, according to the research, that we are attracting more and more and more people watching CNN or BBC because we want to have, as I said before, the global picture of the world, especially when there is a terrorist attack.
Thank you.